Confronted my father-in-law about his S-xual joke in my home. Now my husband's family is furious and insists it's just humor. My father-in-law, whom I'll call Phil, late 50s, is known for being extremely playful. Some would say goofy. Recently, Phil, my mill, also late 50s, and my three in-laws, 20M, and a married couple, 27M and 28F, came to visit my husband, 30 male, and me, 28F. They wanted to see our home and meet our new little one, who was just 7 months old. After Lo went to bed one evening, we were all hanging out in the living room, casually talking and stretching. Out of nowhere, Phil suddenly thought it would be hilarious to start humping the ground. Unfortunately, he chose to perform this act directly in front of me, not my mill, while making eye contact. Mill and I exchanged shocked looks, while the rest of his children just laughed and shrugged it off. Phil insisted the gesture was meant for his wife, even though he did it right in front of me, so we let it drop and the night went on. But I couldn't shake the discomfort. Days passed, and the bizarre image still bothered me. I finally decided to bring it up to my husband, explaining how uncomfortable it made me, especially paired with other sexual jokes Phil sometimes cracks about us all being married. What I didn't expect was the backlash. Suddenly, there was this big divide. My husband's family started claiming I was always ruining the fun, arguing that it was just a joke and definitely wasn't a sexual gesture. According to them, I always find a problem whenever they visit. Yet, when I confided in my own mom, sister, cousins, and friends, every single one of them found Phil's joke and gesture totally inappropriate. When Phil got wind of my feelings, he tried to defend himself by comparing the situation to some TikTok dances I'd done in his home with my in-laws and husband. He said he'd never felt uncomfortable because he knew those were harmless, and it wasn't fair for me to judge him without considering his intent, which, according to him, was just to make a joke. But here's the thing, while I might dance along with others for fun, nothing I do would be considered inappropriate or unpostable on social media. Slow stroking the floor, on the other hand, definitely crosses a line for me. My husband and married siblings-in-law got angry with me for not recognizing it as harmless fun, probably because they were raised around Phil's sense of humor. They think I'm overreacting. But I can't help feeling my boundary here is reasonable. I'm now second-guessing myself before I bring it up in a bigger conversation with the family. Is it really unreasonable to say that Phil humping the floor in my home, in front of me, made me uncomfortable and isn't okay in my presence? I need to know, am I being grounded in reality here, or am I out of line for drawing that boundary? Update 1. From the start, it struck me as inappropriate, gross, weird, odd, just plain sick, and it was reassuring to find that even folks with different outlooks, whether religious or not, saw the behavior as not the best. Now, the reason I followed up with my Phil and Mill wasn't because my Phil never apologized. He did, reluctantly, but he did. Instead, I reached out because of something that happened during our first phone call after my husband, who was still upset with me, told them that I was uncomfortable. My Phil's immediate reaction to hearing about my discomfort was to say that he was uncomfortable with the fact that I was uncomfortable. He tried turning the tables, saying it wasn't fair to him, and after apologizing, which really could have been the end of it, he still didn't let it go. Instead, I learned he was telling the other in-laws, his own children, that I couldn't have fun, that I ruin the fun when they're around, and that he's uncomfortable because I look at him like that. He said I don't know him better and brought up the TikTok dances, suggesting those left room for interpretation about being inappropriate, etc. Let me clear something up. Those videos were nothing but basic, fun dances, Millie Rock, Shoot, Dougie, practically 2000s hip-hop, even Joyful Church, dances you see in African American communities, since we're religious, shouting, praising, that sort of thing. No twerking, nothing seductive, always fully clothed, and honestly, there haven't even been recent videos. Maybe 6 or 8 total, and half are religious. And to be honest, I haven't danced or posted any dance videos in their presence in 2 or 3 years. The real issue wasn't my Phil's private upset feelings. It was the fact that he made it everyone else's business. Word got back to me from my brother-in-law, who asked why I can't just enjoy the moments and the jokes or be happy around them. I explained to my Bill that our beliefs and values just don't align. To me, the message was clear: I'm not allowed to say I'm uncomfortable and just have that received, no questions asked. The side talk and confirmation from Bill only proved there was serious tension brewing behind my back. My husband told me to try speaking with my in-laws directly to clear up any potential misunderstanding before I cut myself off from them. So how did that conversation go? Predictably, it was terrible. My in-laws were incredibly irate, yelling almost the whole time. What seemed to hurt them most was that I had talked to my own mother, who's also involved in our church community. They said that by telling my mom, I exposed my Phil and now my mom sees him in a different light. Their words. At one point, Phil demanded, "How would you feel if I told folks you prostitute?" I answered, "I'd feel like that's a lie." To which he said, "Exactly. That's how I feel." I replied, "Except I didn't lie. I told my mom the facts and how it made me feel." Mill chimed in, "Well, she doesn't feel like she lied, so she doesn't understand." I asked, "Where was the lie?" "I only told the truth." Phil argued, "You made me look bad." Mill added, "Yeah, you've shown him in a different light, and that doesn't show his character. He has a good heart." A lot of the conversation devolved from there. There was a clear undertone of bullying, though that's putting it nicely. Some other things they said: we can joke with all our married friends and children about sexual topics, but we see we can't do that with you. Guess we can't make any jokes around you, so we'll just have to be careful now. I don't know how I'll act around you. What you did was bad and you shouldn't have told your family. The whole point of contention was that I had talked to my mom. I asked who they thought I could have spoken to about being uncomfortable, and the only suggestion was you could have talked to Mill, but in the very conversation itself, Mill was yelling and insulting me. Why would I have ever felt safe going to her? Honestly, the amount of yelling, the insults, calling me dumb, telling me what I did was bad, etc., was unreal. I tried to reason with them, saying, in the future, wouldn't you want your own children's spouses to come to you if something made them uncomfortable? They retorted, aren't you being received now? I responded, no, I'm being yelled at, insulted, threatened with being cut off. Phil actually said this, and this is emotionally unsafe. Even as I expressed that, Phil just got angrier. He said, as the adult, I should listen and that I'm the problem. I shouldn't have talked to anyone, because it makes him look bad. He announced he didn't want to talk to me anymore, and he will move differently with me. He said he didn't want to come to our home anymore, thank the heavens, and when I asked him to stop yelling, he refused, just shouting, no, I'm mad. I asked if he could stop the insults. He said no, maybe we shouldn't talk. I said, you're right, we don't if we can't respect each other. He told me, you need to respect me. I told him to get control, and he snapped, you get control. Eventually, he ended the call, after repeating leave me alone 4 or 5 times, then hanging up, crying and yelling. It's important to mention, I never raised my voice, never insulted or talked over anyone. I've seen this dynamic before with my other sister-in-law, so I stayed calm, almost emotionless, which honestly seemed to infuriate them even more. I made sure to document the conversation for my own records. How did it all end? Phil just kept saying, leave me alone, and finally hung up. Afterwards, they called my husband, who intentionally stayed out of the call, and told him the conversation was rough. My husband was clearly overwhelmed. Privately, he did acknowledge that the joke was inappropriate, but when I pressed him later, he tried to shift it onto me, saying, no, you said it was inappropriate. He's done this pattern a few times now, and I think he does see how inappropriate it was, but is struggling to say it outright because it goes against what he's always known. A few things from that call keep sticking with me. Phil called out that all the children-in-law make sexual jokes, and asked why I single him out. I explained that the humping took things way too far because of the power dynamic. He's a father, an elder, a deacon, a leader, even a grandfather, not a peer. They asked me why I was trying to make Phil look bad, so I turned it back. Isn't the joke itself what made him look bad? Why does the retelling of it to my mother make them so upset? I asked them how they would feel if their own daughter-in-law went through this with her Phil. Wouldn't they want her to feel comfortable talking to someone? Of course, I got no answer, just, she'd talk to her own Mill. They brought up times in the past when I supposedly made them uncomfortable, like having an argument with my husband in their home years ago, and they talked to us about it then. I pointed out they were allowed to voice their discomfort, and we resolved it, so why can't I do the same? They claimed it's because I'm blowing it up, by involving my mom. This whole experience has left my head spinning. There won't be a TLDR because, how could there be? This is a mess that even I couldn't make up. If anyone can help me make sense of this, please do, because I'm being as honest and open as I can, and this whole situation just seems impossible. Update 2. Yikes. I know. I'm really in a pickle here, and to be honest, this whole situation has been weighing on me and my marriage for over a month now. After all the debates and the mess with his dad in our house, my husband finally talked to his parents about everything that happened. He claims he cleared up what occurred, although, let's be honest, not really. He told them that they can't just joke with everyone, especially if they don't know a person's history or how they'll interpret things. I guess that's fair, at least on the surface. But after the insults, the yelling, the alienation, all the gossiping that happened, he spoke to them and things supposedly settled on their end. Supposedly. Yet, not a single person followed up with me. There were no apologies, no hints of remorse, not even an awkward attempt to take anything back. Just quiet indifference, like my pain and anger had evaporated into thin air. All I got was, I've talked with them, they're old and set in their ways, and the final blow, this issue is over. But here's where the actual problem lies. This whole thing has genuinely affected my marriage. I'm still so angry at my husband for not standing up for me, for not having my back, for letting his family talk to me however they wanted. I've found myself questioning his backbone, whether he'd ever call out his family when they're this obviously in the wrong. I've called him a coward. I've wondered, sometimes out loud, sometimes just to myself, if being part of this family was even worth it. Maybe some of my words came from a place of rage. Maybe I finally let out years of accumulated feelings. Either way, my husband is beyond hurt right now. He's giving me the silent treatment, he's avoiding me, and when we do talk, it always seems to turn into a snappy argument. He's mad. So am I, and now I honestly don't know if I was the one out of line here, or if I'm missing something completely. Update 3. I honestly didn't think things could get worse, but here we are. The silent treatment from my husband lasted about 2 weeks, and just when I thought we might start talking again, something happened that completely blindsided me. Last Thursday, I was cleaning out our bedroom closet when I found a card tucked away in one of my husband's jacket pockets. It was a birthday card from his sister-in-law, the 28F married one, from last year, but what caught my attention was what was written inside. The message was flirty. Way too flirty for a sister-in-law. Things like "I hope your special day is as amazing as you are and can't wait to celebrate with you properly," with a little winking face drawn next to it. My stomach dropped. I started thinking about all their interactions during that visit, how she always seemed to find reasons to touch his arm or laugh a little too hard at his jokes. How she insisted on sitting next to him at dinner. How she volunteered to help him in the kitchen while I was putting the baby down. I confronted my husband about it that night. He immediately got defensive, saying I was looking for problems where there aren't any and that I was being paranoid because of everything with his dad. He insisted it was just his sister-in-law being friendly, nothing more. But when I asked him to call her right then and there to clarify what celebrate properly meant, he refused. He said I was being ridiculous and that he wouldn't humiliate his brother's wife over my insecurities. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd do. I looked through his phone while he was in the shower. I found text messages between them from the week of their visit. Nothing explicitly inappropriate, but definitely crossing lines. Messages sent late at night, complaints about their respective spouses, inside jokes I wasn't part of. One message from her said, "I wish we could talk more often without everyone around." His response? "Maybe we can figure something out." When he came out of the shower, I was holding his phone. The look on his face told me everything I needed to know. He tried to snatch it away, but I'd already seen enough. We had the biggest fight of our marriage. He kept insisting it was innocent, that I was twisting everything because I was already upset about his family. But I could see the guilt written all over his face. Then came the real kicker. During our argument, he said something that made my blood run cold. "At least she doesn't make everything about herself like you do. She understands family dynamics." I asked him point blank if he had feelings for her. He hesitated, actually hesitated, before saying no. That hesitation was answer enough. The worst part? Later that day, Mill called me directly for the first time since our blowout. She wanted to check in and see how I was doing. But something about her tone felt off, like she was fishing for information. When I mentioned that my husband and I were going through a rough patch, she seemed almost pleased. She made some comment about how marriage is hard and how some people just aren't meant to be part of certain families. That's when it hit me. I think they've been talking, all of them. I think the whole family has been discussing our marriage problems, and I suspect they're not exactly rooting for us to work things out. My husband is now sleeping in the guest room. He says he needs space to think about our marriage. Meanwhile, I'm here with our 7-month-old baby, wondering if the man I married is having an emotional affair with his sister-in-law while his family cheers him on from the sidelines. I called my mom crying last night. She wants me to come stay with her for a while, but I'm terrified that if I leave, even temporarily, it'll give him and his family more ammunition to use against me. They'll probably say I abandoned him or some other twisted narrative. I don't even know what I'm fighting for anymore. Is it my marriage? My dignity? Or am I just too stubborn to admit that maybe I never belonged in this family to begin with? The craziest part is that this all started because his father thought it would be funny to hump the floor in front of me. Now I'm questioning everything about my marriage and wondering if my husband is emotionally cheating with his sister-in-law. How did we get here? Update 4. I should have trusted my instincts about leaving. I really should have. 3 days after my last update, I made the decision to pack a bag and go stay with my mom for a few days. I told my husband I needed space to think and that I'd be back by the weekend. His response? Maybe that's for the best. Not exactly the reaction you'd hope for from someone fighting for their marriage. But here's where things get interesting. I intentionally left some of my things behind, not just clothes, but my laptop charger, some work files, things that would give me a legitimate reason to come back unexpectedly. Call it paranoia, call it intuition, but something told me I needed to be strategic. I stayed at my mom's for 2 nights. She was incredible, letting me vent, helping with the baby, reminding me that I deserved better than what I was getting. But by Thursday afternoon, I realized I'd forgotten my breast pump parts, and with a 7-month-old, that's not something you can just leave behind. I decided to swing by the house around 3 p.m., figuring my husband would be at work. I used my key quietly, not wanting to wake anyone if the baby was napping. My husband had taken the day off, apparently. The house was eerily quiet when I walked in. Then I heard voices coming from the kitchen. Low, intimate voices. My heart started pounding as I crept closer. I could hear my husband talking, but there was definitely a woman responding. As I got closer, I realized it was her, the sister-in-law. She was supposed to be 3 hours away at her own home. I stood frozen in the hallway, listening to fragments of their conversation. Can't keep doing this, she's getting suspicious. Maybe it's time to just tell him. Tell him? Tell who? Her husband? Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. I've been thinking about us a lot since the visit. Maybe we should have met sooner. My husband's voice was softer than I'd heard it in weeks. I know. I keep wondering what would have happened if we'd met before you married my brother. I felt like I was going to throw up. Or scream. Or both. I managed to back away quietly and slipped out the front door. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, shaking, trying to process what I'd just heard. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I called my brother-in-law directly. "Hey, it's up. Is your wife at home today?" There was a pause. "No, she said she was going to see her mom." "Why?" "Just wondering. How long has she been gone?" "Since this morning." "She probably won't be back until tonight. Is everything okay?" I almost told him right then and there. But something held me back. Maybe it was the fact that I still didn't have concrete proof, or maybe I was just too shocked to think straight. "Everything's fine. Just trying to coordinate something with the women in the family." After I hung up, I sat there for another 10 minutes, then decided to call my husband. "Hey, I'm coming by to grab some things. Are you home?" "Yeah, I'm here. Just give me a few minutes before you come in." "A few minutes to do what?" "Hide the evidence?" When I finally went back inside 20 minutes later, my husband was alone in the living room, looking guilty as hell. I could smell her perfume in the air, the same one she'd worn during their visit. "How was work today?" I asked casually. "Fine. Boring day, actually. I've just been home cleaning." The lie came so easily to him. I went upstairs to grab what I needed, and that's when I saw it, a coffee mug in the sink that I didn't recognize, one of those travel mugs with a flower pattern. I'd seen her drinking from an identical one during their visit. But the real kicker came when I went to get my breast pump parts from the bedroom. On my husband's nightstand, there was a hair tie that definitely wasn't mine. It was one of those fabric scrunchies, navy blue with tiny white flowers. I'd seen her wearing that exact scrunchie in her hair during dinner that first night. I palmed it without saying anything. That night, I did something I never thought I'd do in a million years. I created a fake Instagram account and started following both my husband and his sister-in-law. Nothing too obvious, just scrolling through their recent posts, looking for I don't even know what. But I found it. 3 days ago, she posted a story with a coffee shop location tag. It was the same coffee shop that's 5 minutes from our house. The timestamp was 1:47 p.m., right around the time I would have been driving back to my mom's. Then I scrolled through my husband's posts. 2 days ago, he posted a photo of his lunch with the caption "Trying new places." The background looked exactly like the same coffee shop. They were meeting in public. They were being careful, but not careful enough. I called my mom that night and told her everything. She was livid, but she was also practical. "You need proof," she said. "Real proof, because right now, it's your word against theirs, and we both know how his family operates." She was right. I needed to be smart about this. The next morning, I told my husband I'd be staying at my mom's for a few more days. His relief was palpable. "Take all the time you need," he said. "Maybe some space will help us both figure things out." But instead of going to my mom's, I drove to a parking lot about a block away from our house and waited. Sure enough, around 11 a.m., her car pulled into our driveway. I watched her walk into my house like she belonged there. 2 hours later, she left. I waited another hour, then went home. My husband was in the shower, and I could hear him singing, actually singing, for the first time in weeks. That's when I knew for sure. My marriage was over. The question now isn't whether he's cheating. The question is what I'm going to do about it, and whether I tell his brother first or confront them both together. Either way, I'm done playing the victim in this family's twisted games. The floor humping incident feels like a lifetime ago now. Turns out, that was just the beginning of finding out who these people really are. Update 5. I thought I had it all figured out. I thought I was being strategic, careful, smart about gathering evidence. Turns out I was naive about just how deep this rabbit hole goes. After watching her leave my house that day, I decided to follow her. I know, it sounds unhinged, but I was past caring about looking crazy. I needed to know where she was going, what story she was telling people. She didn't go home. Instead, she drove to a nail salon about 15 minutes away. I parked across the street and watched her go inside. Through the window, I could see her sitting in one of those pedicure chairs, but she wasn't alone. There was another woman with her, someone I didn't recognize at first. Then it hit me, it was my other sister-in-law's friend, someone I'd met briefly at a family barbecue last year. I sat in my car for 2 hours, watching them chat and laugh like old friends. When they finally came out, I heard fragments of their conversation as they walked past my car. The friend was saying something about covering and just say you were with me, and then I heard her laugh and say, "Girl, you're playing with fire, but I get it. He's always been the good-looking brother." My blood turned to ice. This wasn't some sudden emotional affair that spiraled out of control. This was calculated. She had help. She had alibis. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. When I got there, my husband was in the kitchen making dinner, actually cooking, something he hadn't done in months. He was humming again, and when he saw me, he smiled. Actually smiled. "Hey, babe. I made your favorite pasta. I thought we could talk tonight, maybe start working on things." The audacity was breathtaking. 3 hours after his sister-in-law left our house, he was playing the devoted husband trying to save his marriage. "That's sweet," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm just going to freshen up first." Instead, I went straight to our bedroom and called the one person I knew would tell me the truth, my husband's youngest brother, the 20-year-old. He's always been the family outsider, the one who sees through everyone's BS but usually stays quiet about it. Hey, can I ask you something? And please be honest with me. Sure, what's up? Has anyone in your family said anything about me and your brother having problems? There was a long pause. I really don't want to get in the middle of this. I'm not asking you to take sides. I just need to know if people are talking. Another pause. Yeah. They're talking. And honestly, it's been going on for a while, not just since the thing with Dad. My heart sank. What kind of things are they saying? Look, I love you, but I also love my brother. This is really hard for me. Please. They think you're not a good fit for the family. That you're too sensitive, too dramatic. And lately, there's been talk about whether you and my brother are actually compatible long term. I felt like I was drowning. Who's saying this? Everyone. Mom, Dad, even. He trailed off. Even who? Even my brother's wife. She's been really vocal about it, actually. She keeps saying how she can see why my brother is frustrated, and how some women just aren't cut out for big families. The pieces were falling into place. When did she start saying this? Honestly? It's been months. Maybe even before the visit. She's always had opinions about you, but she's gotten more bold about sharing them. After we hung up, I sat on my bed and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't just an affair. This was a campaign. They'd been undermining my marriage for months, probably longer. The floor humping incident wasn't the catalyst, it was just the excuse they needed to accelerate whatever they'd already been planning. I went downstairs and had dinner with my husband, playing the role of the wife trying to reconcile. I laughed at his jokes, asked about his day, even let him hold my hand across the table. All while knowing that his family had been systematically destroying my reputation behind my back, and that the woman he was cheating with was leading the charge. After dinner, I excused myself to take a bath. Instead, I locked the bathroom door and called my mom. Mom, I need you to help me with something, and I need you to not ask questions until I'm done explaining. Okay, honey. What do you need? I need you to call Mill tomorrow and tell her you're concerned about me. Tell her I've been acting strange lately, maybe depressed, and that you think I might be having some kind of breakdown. Really lay it on thick about how worried you are. Sweetheart, why would I? Because I need to know how fast information travels in that family, and I need to know who's really on their side. Can you do this for me? She agreed, though I could hear the worry in her voice. The next morning, my mom made the call at 9 a.m. By 10:30, my husband was texting me, "My mom is worried about you. She says your mom called her about you having some kind of breakdown? Are you okay?" By noon, I had a text from my brother-in-law, "Hey, heard you're going through a rough time. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here." By 2 p.m., my phone rang. It was her, the sister-in-law. I heard from Mill that you're struggling. I wanted to reach out because I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but I'm here if you need someone to talk to." The fake concern in her voice made me nauseous. But I played along. "That's really sweet of you. I have been having a hard time lately. Everything with your dad, the stress with the baby, and now my husband and I are barely speaking. I'm so sorry. That must be really isolating. You know, maybe we should meet up for coffee sometime. I think there's been a lot of misunderstanding between us." "I'd like that," I lied. "When were you thinking?" "How about tomorrow? There's this cute little place downtown. Actually, would you mind coming to my house? I don't really feel up to going out right now." She hesitated. "Of course, what time works for you?" "How about 2 p.m.? My husband should be at work then." "Perfect. I'll see you tomorrow." After I hung up, I sat in my car and smiled for the first time in weeks. Because tomorrow, I wasn't going to be the only one listening to that conversation. I called my brother-in-law that afternoon. "Hey, I know this is weird, but I wanted to give you a heads up. I'm having coffee with your wife tomorrow, and I'm hoping we can clear the air about some things. I just wanted you to know in case it comes up." "Oh, that's great. I'm glad you two are going to talk. She's been worried about you." "Has she? That's sweet. What time does she usually get home from work on Fridays?" "She's actually taking a half day tomorrow. Should be home by 3:30 or 4. "Perfect. If she was planning to come to my house at 2 p.m. and should be home by 3:30, that meant she was planning to keep our coffee date short, probably just long enough to fish for information about my mental state and report back to my husband. But I had other plans. Tomorrow, she's going to walk into a trap. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I'm going to be the one in control.